Welcome to KYC Media News. We bring you the greatest and most up-to-date news of the day, and we invite you to stay tuned. Earthquake in Afghanistan. It happened. The Mohammed bin Zayed Summit will be held at Dubai Expo City. The Geneva Convention's boundaries. Russia might execute a couple of American military veterans caught battling for Ukraine, a Russian authority said for the current week. The two are blamed for being engaged with criminal operations by terminating on the attacking soldiers, and could have to deal with extreme damages. Those folks on the front line were terminating at our tactical folks, Dmitry Peskov told NBC News, further referring to the American contenders as troopers of fortune. He declared that they are not piece of Ukraine's standard armed force, and said the Americans are consequently not covered by the Geneva Conventions that in any case safeguard detainees of battle from hurt, including capital punishment. Druik was a previous U.S. Army Staff Sergeant who recently served in Iraq. When served 4 years in the Marines, however, had no battle insight before he went to Ukraine. The two were taken subsequent to running into a lot bigger Russian power during a fight last Thursday in the town of Izbetsk, 30 miles upper east of Kharkiv, Colin Freeman composes for The Telegraph. Presently they are accepted to be the principal U.S. servicemen to wind up as Russian detainees of war. Former Marine Grady Korpasi disappeared in Ukraine in April. Something like 4 Americans have passed on in the battling. Earthquake in Afghanistan. It happened. A quake of extent 6.1 hit pieces of Afghanistan and Pakistan in the early long periods of Wednesday, the U.S. Geological Survey (USGS) said. Somewhere around 280 individuals were killed in the seismic tremor in Afghanistan, specialists said. Data stayed scant on the extent 6 quake that struck Paktika region, yet it comes as the global local area generally has left Afghanistan after the Taliban takeover of the nation last year in the midst of the turbulent withdrawal of the U.S. military from the longest conflict in its set of experiences. As per the USGS, the tremor struck around 44 kilometers, 27 miles from the city of Khost in southeastern Afghanistan and was at a profundity of 51 kilometers. Be that as it may, there have been no quick reports of harm or setbacks. The shaking was felt over a scope of exactly 500 kilometers by around 119 million individuals in Pakistan, Afghanistan and India, said the European Mediterranean Seismological Center, EMSC. Pakistan media revealed a gentle force tremor struck Islamabad and different pieces of the country. Huge earthquake in Islamabad. Allah care. I trust you're all protected. Allah Ta'ala safeguard all of us. So be it, tweeted a client from Pakistan. Reports guarantee that the quakes were additionally felt in Lahore, Multan, Quetta, and a few different areas of Pakistan. The NAML detailed that the seismic tremor was felt for a couple of moments and sent individuals hurrying into the roads. No death toll and property was accounted for. Last Friday, a 5.0 extent quake shocked a few Pakistani urban communities including Islamabad, Peshawar, Rawalpindi and Multan. The shocks were likewise kept in Faisalabad, Abbottabad, Swat, Buner, Kohat and Malakand, Geo News announced. The Mohammed bin Zayed Summit will be held at Dubai Expo City. Under the order of President His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the 28th United Nations Climate Change Conference of the Parties, COP28, will be facilitated at Dubai Expo City. The order underlines the scene's extraordinary recommendation as a cutting-edge objective, which united the world and the UAE for a long time. Both Expo 2020 and COP28 share comparative goals, accomplishing supportability and advancing worldwide activity as fundamental stages towards confronting worldwide difficulties. COP28 centers around key points of support, including the execution of environment responsibilities and promises, consideration, cooperating to make a substantial move and distinguishing arrangements that add to beating difficulties, and jumping all over chances to guarantee a practical future for present and people in the future. The determination of Dubai Expo City as a scene for COP28 expands on the heritage and message of associating minds, creating the future, and certifies obligation to the subjects of maintainability, opportunity, and versatility, while displaying its high-level and manageable framework, in accordance with the UAE's vision for COP28. The meeting is supposed to see north of 45,000 members day to day, including heads of state, government authorities, global industry pioneers, confidential area delegates, scholastics, specialists and agents of common society associations. The new city, reported by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed Kanister Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President, Prime Minister of the UAE and ruler of Dubai, will be a worldwide center for development and imagination. It will address a model for the future city that saves the UAE's inheritance as a functioning supporter of the advancement of the locale and the world. The UAE has a demonstrated history in environment activity and multilateral collaboration. It is the extremely durable host country for the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, the principal country in the locale to sign and sanction the Paris Agreement, and the primary in the area to focus on a far-reaching decrease in discharges. Likewise, the UAE has additionally laid down a good foundation for itself as an elite objective for facilitating undeniable level global occasions zeroing in on environment activity and reasonable turn of events. Throughout recent years, the UAE has arisen as a local forerunner in sustainable and clean energy speculations, both locally and globally. It put $50 billion in clean energy and has as of late reported its arrangements to contribute more than $50 billion over the course of the following 10 years in extra ventures, including hydrogen and smelling salts. The UAE works 3 of the world's biggest and most minimal expense sun-powered plants and has put resources into environmentally friendly power projects in 70 nations. These speculations remember more than $1 billion for awards and credits to 27 island nations that are asset-pushed and especially powerless against the effects of environmental change. The UAE used successful and imaginative environment activity as a critical driver to building a extraordinary failure outflows monetary development model, supported by maintainability, and one that will set out significant business open doors in new areas, subsequently driving the desires of the UAE, the locale, and the world. Bombing by U.S. soldiers in Syria. Flying Corps spokeswoman Ann Stefanek reported the capture on Tuesday, telling CNN the trooper, who has not been openly recognized, was put in care recently at the command of his authority. As a feature of a continuous examination, on June 16, an airman was arrested stateside related to the assault in Green Village, Syria. Subsequent to checking on the data in the examination, the airman's leader pursued the choice to put him in pretrial restriction, she said, adding that while it's too soon simultaneously to talk about a prosecution, the assumption is charges could be recorded inside the following couple of weeks. Authorities at first accepted the April 7 assault was the consequence of circuitous mounted guns or rocket discharge on a U.S. base in northeastern Syria, where American powers have firmly helped out neighborhood Kurdish contenders. Recently, nonetheless, the Pentagon showed a U.S. administration part was a potential suspect for the situation, saying it tracked down proof of the intentional position of hazardous charges, while offering not many different subtleties. As per 2 authorities referred to by CNN, the explosives utilized in the assault were not unimportant and had more explosion power than a hand projectile, while one authority considered them military grade. The impact struck the office late around evening time, and security film apparently shows an unidentifiable figure moving rapidly across the edge in 2 examples. It is muddled, assuming the clasps portray a similar person. The 4 fighters harmed in the impact were treated for awful mind wounds, however none were truly hurt and all got back to obligation not long after the episode. Britain inflation hits 40-year record. Taking off food costs pushed British customer value expansion to a 40-year high of 9.1% last month, the most noteworthy rate out of the group of 7 nations and underlining the seriousness of the typical cost for most everyday items crunch. The perusing, up from 9% in April, matched the agreement of a Reuters survey of financial experts. Authentic records from the Office for National Statistics show May's expansion was the most noteworthy since March 1982, and more awful is probably going to come. Real, one of the most horrendously awful performing monetary forms against the US dollar this year, fell underneath $1.22, down 0.6% on the day. A few financial backers judge Britain to be in danger of both constantly high expansion and downturn, mirroring its enormous imported energy bill and persistent Brexit inconveniences, which could additionally hurt exchange attachés with the European Union.